Good morning and welcome.
Good morning and welcome. This is Monday and you are live here on Channels Television. Sunrise Daily is on your screens right now. I'm Kayla Magwa.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show. It's a Monday morning, as she said, and guess what? Today is the 5th day in the month. I don't know whether to say, Kayla, that it's 5 days to go before, well, just 5 days to go, whatever that means. But hey, let's get into the rest of the show this morning.
It is 5 days to go, 5 days to go of the protest, because the protest is still going on in parts of the country. We're seeing that there's still protests going on in Port Harcourt. So yes, you know, some people for it, some people against it, but we're here from both sides, aren't we, Ayo?
Absolutely, and that's the job. One of the things that people need to understand about the media is balance. Any organization, particularly media house, that is not doing the job of that balance, you should put question marks on it, not just for one side or for the other side. And the job of the media, don't forget, is right there enshrined in the Constitution to hold government accountable. And by holding government accountable doesn't mean just, elected officials or those in government offices. We, the people, are the government. That's why the Constitution usually begins with we, the people. So we are the government. So we hold ourselves accountable both on this side of the divide and on the other side of the divide. So, Kayla, where are you taking us this morning?
Oh, well, because we have been very busy here in the nation's capital in the past 5 days, we decided to bring you a look of Abuja, starting with our city gate, all the way to the Moshood Abiola Stadium, where all of the activity has been happening in the past 5 days. It is a toasty morning in the nation's capital today, 23 degrees Celsius. Humidity is at 88%. The wind is at 10 kilometers per hour, and visibility is at 11.27 kilometers. So some respite from the rains. We've been able to dry our clothes and actually have some dry weather in the past few days. But, Abuja is known for its unpredictable weather. So we'll be watching to see how it all pans out in the days to come. But right there on your screens, the Abuja City Gate, welcoming one and all. Everyone who comes into the nation's capital has to go through this gate, just so you can know that you are in the nation's capital, a lovely edifice, and basically, situated in a place that is right smack in the middle of everything. That road there leads to Lube as well, where we saw the unfortunate situation between hoodlums and security agencies in the past few days. And the Moshood Abiola Stadium, where the protesters have been converging, is right behind the Abuja City Gate, as you can see right there. And that is where everyone has been converging. A lot has happened, so much to discuss. And we can't wait to get to all of that. But there you have it, Abuja's City Gate, welcoming one and all to the nation's capital, Ayo.
I always, like it when you remind us that you have to say welcome to Abuja. But in Lagos, you don't welcome, you just tell you have arrived. This is Lagos.
This is Lagos.
And I also like the fact that you mentioned the weather the other time, Kayla, because yesterday I actually rejoiced at the fact that I saw the sun. That hadn't happened in a while, and so it was very different to feel that, and I can see that that is also rising here on what you're having on your screen. Now, if Lagos felt what I felt yesterday, I'm wondering what's happening in Jigawa, in Sokoto, in Maiduguri, and in different other parts of the nation. The best we can say is, please, stay safe, stay in your best shape ever. What's happening today, Kayla?
Well, it's actually you, because we have some business. And remember, we have business on Sunrise Daily coming up shortly. But business, the nationwide protest, the food inflation factor, will be our major business story today. And of course, everyone is looking at, what has happened and the impact it's having on all of us. So yes, the nationwide protest and the food inflation factor, which many people believe is at the heart of this problem. No matter how anyone wants to spin this situation, the truth is, hunger is what brought people out. If they can't afford food, if they can't eat well, we've had so many conversations. We've had meltdowns watching people buy scraps from the market, watching people dumpster dive all over the nation's capital. It's a very serious situation. So yes, the food inflation factor will be coming up on business today. And of course, Ayo will be running us through the newspapers this morning, won't you, Ayo?
This morning, most of the papers focus on the End Bad Governance protests, along with the president's speech and reactions to it. Let's start with the Daily Times newspaper. Atiku, PDP, RSM kick as Tinubu begs protesters not to shut down economy. Right above it is End Bad Governance and quite a number of riders to the story. The Vanguard newspaper, protests, Tinubu's broadcast fell short of expectations. Organizers, Atiku, Soyinka, PDP, NLC, others. All of that is packed on page 5 of the paper this morning. Tinubu draws flack after a broadcast on hashtag End Bad Governance protests. A retinue of riders followed that one as well. The Guardian newspaper, outrage over rehash of old policies, threats, failure to soothe protesters. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Daily Trust newspaper, Atiku, Soyinka, Falana, others pick holes in Tinubu's speech. And the riders are also right there on the front page of the paper. Nigerian News Direct, End Bad Governance. Protesters defy FG as demonstration enters day 5 with renewed vigor. The story comes along with some riders. Page 5 has the details. Blueprint newspaper, protests. Pintiri Ohukwe, Sislak, others hail Tinubu on broadcast. It's time to end protests, embrace dialogue, APC chieftain, with issues with president's address, Atiku, Falana, and a number of other people you'll find their reactions as well on the inside pages of the Blueprint newspaper. National broadcast, that's on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. What Tinubu should have said, Soyinka, Atiku, Falana. That story has its details on page 22 of the paper this morning. The Abuja Inquirer, hashtag End Bad Governance protest, Tinubu under fire over broadcast. PDP, Falana, Ezekwesili, others flay president. Protesters vow to push on. Kachiku, Akande sue for truce. The Nigerian Observer has this one. Tinubu leaves most protesters' demands unanswered. What does that mean? The riders, Soyinka, Falana, others fault president's broadcasts. Protesters say demands not addressed. Regroup. Details on the inside pages of the paper this morning. These are some of the papers we have for you today.
I mean, I'm taking my papers today from the This Day newspaper. I think that there's a particular headline that has to do with journalists. So let's see if we can get that. The This Day, This Nigeria, beg your pardon, This Nigeria newspaper. And we're seeing it there, more of it on page 14 of This Nigeria. Sanction Nigeria over attacks on journalists, protesters, according to Serap, and they're telling the Commonwealth. Well, they're talking to Madam Patricia Scotland, really, there, saying, you know, that they're asking for some charter to look into, you know, these situations where many journalists said they were attacked, you know, and of course the protesters, and we've heard of death toll, we've heard of so many people who are in police custody, and Serap is speaking up there saying that some kind of sanction should come up against Nigeria. But the reason why I brought that up is because we just got an update from the Commissioner of Police here in Abuja, and they're saying, and I'm going to read it verbatim. This is from the PRO of the FCT, Josephine Ade, says, I find it necessary to state that the police would never shoot at journalists. For what reason? Those covering us know how much we value our relationship with them. The CPFCT specifically ordered that journalists be protected during the ongoing protest. There is no way we would single them out and start attacking them. So that's from the FCT. For other parts of northern Nigeria, you know, what statements are they going to be giving out? Are there investigations going on? We saw situations in Lagos, at least we saw that on the news yesterday, where protesters were being attacked by hoodlums, and the police were watching, and you heard the protesters asking the police, why are you here if you're not going to protect us? How much of that happened across the country? So that's where I'm taking it from this morning. This Day, This Nigeria newspaper there, sanctioned Nigeria over attacks on journalists and protesters, according to Serap, and Serap is saying that to the Commonwealth. More on that from page 14 of This Nigeria. Ayo, what are you looking at?
I'm on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning, and there's hardly anyone who uses mobile internet that will not identify with this one. Front page of the Guardian newspaper has this one. At the bottom of the page, actually, poor internet service lingers as NCC denies new tariff. Can I just stop at poor internet service lingers? Am I allowed to do that? You can relate, right? And there are some mentioning a particular network now, but hitherto, 2 others have had serious issues. And I'm wondering, it's just an unfortunate coincidence. So it's just at this time that the protests began, that this particular service provider decided to be having problems. Did they decide to be having problems? I don't know. But that's the assumption some people are going to make. Oh, man, this must be one of those things that government was doing to try to frustrate these protests and all of that. It's about time the NCC came out to say, well, we're not even talking about whether or not it's about the tariff increase or whatever. It's about whether or not it is intended to frustrate people from getting things done as far as the protests are concerned. Even at that, we still saw the things that happened on the street, so many people were still able to put out word. So that is a serious concern that we need to pay attention to. Now, if I can just quickly put in a word on that issue that you raised the other time, Kayla, before we go into the issues for the day. You talked about what we'll be talking about during Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, and he's going to be leading us at that. And I'm just hoping they'll be able to talk about this as well. Quite a number of people have talked about the fact that food inflation is the highest of the indicators of the entire inflation package that we have in the country today. Add that to the fact that inflation rate now is at such a rate that it is difficult for you to consider taking a loan to do business. And what then is the function of banks if I can't go in there, get business, get a loan to do business and make some good money? If, for instance, I take a loan of, say, 900 million naira, and I'm supposed to pay an interest rate of what? 30%? Gosh, that's about 300 million naira. Gosh. Well, I'd rather just go and do what I would normally do, talk to a few friends who are not going to charge me that much, give them a bite of the business. So I don't know if it is something that the federal government will also be looking into, the CBN, the Minister of Finance, because I don't know how easy it is for us to do business in Nigeria. We've been talking about ease of doing business for a while. So farmers are worse hit at this time. But thankfully, the Minister of Agriculture spoke with us yesterday. But let's see what that will produce. You've made a promise. We're waiting on you. So food inflation, can we find a way to deal with that head-on? Maybe Business Morning on Sunrise Daily will be dealing with that sufficiently. In the meantime, let's take a short break. When we return, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty.
Did you know that President Bola Tinubu has approved the suspension of import duties and tariffs on rice, maize and other essential food items for the next 5 months? The President has also approved the suspension of import duties on pharmaceutical raw materials and equipment. This will help bring down the prices of food and drugs across the country. All hands are on deck to ensure that things get better for all Nigerians. This is the renewed hope.
At Access Holdings, we are heading into the next phase of our evolution. And with our rights issue, you get an increased stake in it. From the 8th of July to the 14th of August, you can get your share of over 17 billion shares at 19.75 naira per share. That's one new ordinary share to every 2 shares held. Visit theaccesscorporation.com to subscribe. Access Holdings, where financial solutions connect the world.
Imagine a world where your potential isn't limited by your bank account, where your financial dreams can become reality. That world is here with the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation scheme, Credicore. Credicore is one of President Tinubu's initiatives designed to put the power of consumer credit in the hands of working Nigerians. Here to help you achieve your goals, whether it's providing for your family or expanding your home or business. Visit www.credicore.ng today for details. This is the renewed renewed hope.
We are hiring. Have you got what it takes to join a dynamic global energy company of choice? Are you ready to experience a career driven by innovation and excellence? NNPC Limited is looking for young talents and result-oriented experienced professionals to make valuable contributions to NNPC Limited's business objectives. Hurry now and apply at careers.nnpcgroup.com. Application closes on the 20th of August 2024. Recruitment is strictly on merit.
Come on, let's go. Relief is coming. More wages, reduced costs. Nigeria's national minimum wage is now 70,000 naira, and it will be reviewed every 3 years. The federal government will commence immediate implementation, and state governments are being encouraged to follow suit. With the presidential CNG initiative, transport costs are coming down. Are you a car owner or a transporter? Visit www.pci.gov.ng to find out how you can benefit from switching to CNG. This is the renewed hope.
The national anthem heralds the president's broadcast. His address to the nation beginning with his rejection of the carnage by hoodlums that trailed the ongoing protests.
I speak to you today with a heavy heart and sense of responsibility, aware of the turmoil and violent protests unleashed in some of our states. Notably, among the protesters were young Nigerians who desired a better and more progressive country where their dreams, hope, and personal aspiration would be fulfilled. I am especially pained by the loss of lives in Borno, Jigawa, Kano, Kaduna, and other states, the destruction of facilities in some states, and the wanton looting of supermarkets and shops, contrary to the promise of protest organizers that the protest will be peaceful across the country. The destruction of properties set us back as a nation, as scarce resources will be again used to restore them. I commiserate with the families and relations of those who have died in the protest. We must stop further bloodshed, violence, and destruction.
The scars of the destruction by hoodlums, acts of lawlessness by miscreants, and the tensions that followed are issues Nigeria's #1 citizen insists will not be allowed to fester. And for the protesters urged by hardship and desirous for change, President Tinubu calls for discourse and seeks a suspension of the demonstrations.
Under the circumstances, I hereby enjoin protesters and the organizers to suspend any further protest and create room for dialogue, which I have always acceded to at the slightest opportunity. Nigeria requires all hands on deck and need us all, regardless of age, party, tribe, religion, or other divides. To those who have taken undue advantage of this situation to threaten any section of this country, be warned. The law will catch up with you. There is no place for ethnic bigotry or such threats in the Nigeria we seek to build.
One of the demands of the protesters is the return of fuel subsidy. The president explains the reasons behind its removal and the gains that has been made so far.
I therefore took the painful yet necessary decision to remove fuel subsidy and abolish multiple foreign exchange system, which had constituted a noose around the economic jugular of our nation. and impede our economic development and progress. These actions block the greedy and the profit that smugglers and rent seekers made. They also block the undue subsidy we had extended to our neighboring countries to the detriment of our people, rendering our economy prostrate. We have also embarked on major infrastructure projects across the country. We are working to complete inherited projects critical to our economic prosperity, including roads, bridges, railways, power, and oil and gas development.
President Tinubu insists he has a listening ear and feels the frustrations of Nigerians, but believes that the people should collectively work with his government to ensure change.
My dear Nigerians, especially our youths, I have heard you loud and clear. I understand the pain and the frustration that drive these protests, and I want to assure you that our government is committed to listening and addressing the concerns of our citizens. But we must not let violence and destruction tear our nation apart. We must work together to build a brighter future where every Nigerian can live with dignity and prosperity. The task before us is a collective one, and I am leading the charge as your president. A lot of work has gone into stabilizing our economy, and I must stay focused on ensuring that the benefits reach every single Nigerian as we promised. My administration is working very hard to improve and expand our national infrastructure and create more opportunities for our young people. Let nobody misinform and miseducate you about your country or tell you that your government does not care about you.
He concludes his address by urging security operatives to continue to maintain peace, law and order while adhering to the necessary conventions on human rights to which Nigeria is a signatory.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty. There's a lot to talk about, especially when it comes to the president's speech. We'll also be taking a look at local government autonomy and calls by some local government chairmen saying they want to return to status quo. They don't want the autonomy. They want the state governors to continue to do that. But we'll get to that shortly. Joining us in the studio right now, Mr. Sani Shinkafi, Executive Director, Patriot for Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And Professor Oke Ikechukwu, the Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. Welcome again to the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to start off with you, Mr. Shinkafi. The president's speech yesterday has received a lot of criticism from all kinds of people from across the country, protesters, and two major things: that he didn't address reducing the cost of governance, didn't address some of the major requests of the protesters, almost as though their demands were ignored. What do you make of these criticisms of the president's speech?
Mr. President made a national broadcast on end bad governance protest. He addressed the nation. We have not addressed the demand of the protesters. There are some critical demands by the protesters. Issue of hunger and starvation, poverty, corruption, reduction cost of governance, and removal of police subsidy, and insecurity, especially in the northern Nigeria. These are some of the critical issues Mr. President is supposed to address these demands. There are about 15 demands, but these are the major critical issues. So on the issue of hunger and starvation, Nigeria will have getting to over 1 million hectares of land, which are only 10 to 15% are being cultivated. More than 900,000 hectares are uncultivated due to the activities of armed banditry, terrorists, and other criminal elements, most especially in the northern Nigeria, where we have a land for farming. So the Nigerians, there must be hunger. If the Mr. President is not ready to address the insecurity squarely, people have been sacked from their ancestral homes, businesses were closed down, small and larger scale farmers cannot be able to go to farms, people are being kidnapped for ransom, cattle rustling. So there must be a hunger on the land when there is no security. And that is what also generates to the food insecurity in Nigeria. And if you look at what is happening now in the country, we have people has unlimited wants, and the resources are limited. So the limited resources mismatch with the unlimited ones, and that is what generated to the also low cost of living, the devaluation of Nigerian currency, forests, corruption in the oil sector. If the government is saying on the presidential speech, he said he made mention of the reforms and also the achievement of his administration for the first 14 months. But that should be economic recovery plans and economic growth. And when you are going to apply these economic recovery plans and economic growth, there should be a short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Some of the economic growth that Mr. President is saying, he highlighted in his speech, a long-term, but we need a short-term economic recovery plan. Looking at the cost of living, looking at the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy. Many advanced countries, Russia, America, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, have been subsidized. China, in accordance with the IMF report, China paid more than $2.2 trillion US as a subsidy on oil and gas. And why then the refineries are not working? Why people are sabotaging Dangote refinery? We have 4 state-owned refineries, and which has a capacity to refine 445,000 barrels per day. LMA refinery, Otako refinery, Warri refinery, Kaduna refinery are not working. Even when they are functional, they perform below capacity 15 to 25%. And Dangote now also commissioned a refinery which has a capacity to refine 650 barrels per day. But the people, or the officials of NPC and DPR and other regulatory agencies are sabotaging the operation of Dangote refinery. So if the government can give room, or if the central bank can give intervention loans to operate a modular refineries, to privatize these state-owned refineries, and also give Dangote refineries with the crude oil to refine this petroleum product, I think the market forces, that is the essence of the regulation of the oil petroleum sector. The market forces will now liberalize the market, the economy.
I mean, we heard the Minister of Agriculture yesterday on one of our programs, I think it was on Politics Today, where he was basically saying, you know, some of the things that you've mentioned. We're not producing as much as we are growing. As a population, we keep expanding, but we're not, the food necessary to feed that population is not being produced. But I want to get back to Professor Oke. You know, the president's speech, were there any pluses in his speech? I mean, everyone was so excited when he said, you said it yourself, even here on the program, when we were doing the August protest watch, you said he should speak. He's spoken, and everyone seems to be unhappy with what he said. Were there any pluses at all?
Before we talk about pluses, let's contextualize the entire protest and the protesting community. In the last 10, 15 years, the locus of public protests have changed. 80s, 90s, the 2000s, you had people who were known to drive public protests. Adams Oshiomhole, Femi Falana, Sheikh Hussaini, and the rest of it. So there were people who, once they got into the public domain, you knew there were issues. If you have the outlook of a generation that expects that type of protest leading, you will never be able to cope with this type of protest. You will notice that most of the leaders, you have to ask questions before you find out who they are. And you find that many of them are self-propelling. I mean, the individuals coming out are angry. With that in view, you now look at the president's address. The protesters must look for strategic engagement through dialectical pragmatism. What do I mean by that? He has said he wants to dialogue, isn't it? Dialogue with him. Sir, you told us there's going to be dialogue you on your own without telling him. You choose among yourselves because all of you from the stadium, from Ojota cannot come to dialogue with anybody. Each of those groups and select their leaders. Okay, let's select 20 of us from across all the platforms. Let's meet among ourselves and tabulate the things we want and see if we can edit it to what is possible. Restructure all of it as the voice of one group, which is the protesting Nigerian youth. Present it to him. Short term, do this. Long term, do this. Medium term, do this. But you also then look at the feasibility of some of the demands. It is in the course of that you should even meet among yourselves and say, okay, if I'm Mr. President, this demand, how will I address it? So that as you're going for the meeting, you're super equipped. Now, that's on one side. The other thing to also see, the minister who just left your studio, that's the Minister for Power and Steel. Yes, the anchor asked him, sir, if you're paid the minimum wage, would you accept it? He said, yes. I disagree completely. A minister cannot be paid 70,000 naira. You know why? There are capacities and qualifications for every job. If I'm a medical doctor, will I, in the name of patriotism, in the name of the fact that you're angry, accept to be paid 70,000? No. Out there among those protesting, who are those who earn 70,000? Their stratification. So it's also in making demands and making concessions. We must not insult ourselves. We must, if I'm misguided in one aspect of my demand, don't concede to it. Point out that I'm mistaken. So I didn't think the minister's concession fell within what you will call, in my view, what can be allowed. No, that's an extreme. Or if I can decide to go as a minister and be paid 70,000. Well, that's because I have resources to keep picking my bills. Not that that's what I deserve at that level. I have some, whatever capacity you choose to call it, whether it's vocational skill, whether it's academic education, but it's on the basis of that somebody said, this man is qualified. In principle, never mind that you can have today all manner of people as ministers, but the principle mustn't be lost. Having said all of that, the question then, going back to the substantive issue, are there pluses and minuses? Yes, there are pluses. The major plus that he spoke at all, there were concerns that he wouldn't even talk to Nigerians. The other plus, which I've already hinted at, is the fact that he called for dialogue. Now, if the protesters are serious, and all of us are protesters, he shouldn't get away with that promise. You said you want dialogue. Sir, we are now ready. Please, let's decide where to meet. I saw in the news this morning that the Lagos protesters were, I think, going to have some roundtable at Ojota. No, don't diminish yourself by doing that sort of thing. First, it's a very vulnerable area. Second, you can't invite everybody in town for a dialogue. Not in the village square. There are people, the leaders, for instance. If I'm leading a group of the protesters and we need to discuss with someone who is the governor of Lagos State, you expect me to carry all my members? Will that be a discussion? So let them structure it better. But they must be congratulated for raising the core issues Nigerians are angry about.
Let's talk a bit about some of their demands,
Okay.
Prof. So one of the criticisms, and they have come under a lot of criticism, not just from government spokespersons, but also from Nigerians. Mr. Shinkafi talked a little bit about short-term, medium-term, and long-term solutions to some of the demands that were made. And most of the solutions that we heard were long-term solutions. but we do have short-term issues and medium-term issues. In what ways can this administration meet up with some of these demands in the short term and the medium term?
That's why I spoke of strategic, pragmatic, dialectical pragmatism. Now, when you throw demands and say, do what you like, all we know is that you should solve this problem. You're not being sufficiently strategic. Propose solutions, give 3 options. Now, for instance, you want the fuel price to come down to 200. I don't know where they got their figure from, but the last time before the increase, I thought it was 169. So maybe there's another thing going on, but the point is this. Look, gentlemen and ladies, we've told the president that we don't want this, and we're insisting on it. These are our demands. That's why the shadow cabinet outlook, which has been a disastrous negative for all the opposition parties. Now, let's meet among ourselves. We are the young ones. This country belongs to us. Let us look at this thing. Why did they increase it? Does it make sense? Even if it does, can the people survive? If we have answers to these questions, let's now move on to implementation. Sir, we see that this is the reason for the subsidy. No problem. We see also that in removing it, the government gets more revenue. No problem. But what it means is that those of us who are consuming are still going to be taxed more, so our suffering will increase. Sir, we don't think, this is why we don't think there should be subsidy. Then the government presents a counter-argument. No, these are some aspects of this you're not aware of. Now, that's what is being looked for. Media visibility, media excitement, we've really given it to Tinubu. Forget that and look for results. Everybody, all of us, me talking, we are having a very rough time in this country. So this is not time for grandstanding, for showing how implacable you are, and all the rest of it. Soyinka is a friend of the president. Everybody knows that. A few weeks ago, 2 places were named after him in Abuja. It didn't prevent him from pointing out an overlooked point, which is a fact. Now, the details, I believe the president could also have mentioned some of those details. Imagine that after saying he's inviting them for dialogue, and in the course of that dialogue, that they protesters and the government will jointly review the specific demands and find out how feasible, what timelines, etc. So those are the pluses. Now, having looked at all of it together, I believe that using the opportunity to re-laud the achievements of the government, interesting as some of them may sound, is what is fueling the impression that it just didn't take us sufficiently seriously. You know, there's another occasion for that, and that's why I've said, disaggregate the communication of government. All of it cannot come out in one day. People won't pay enough attention. I mean, and then, very quickly, 1 or 2 more sentences. And then also, you find that if you look at the interventions of the Ministry of Information on all the occasions it's intervened, it always attempts to structure its submissions. But I don't want to use displeasure, is this tangential jumping in. Everybody wants to speak. And to that extent, being that there's no common narrative shared by those, even those who have come to your station, each person comes to throw in his own episodic perspective, and he creates a further impression that we're not sure these people are working well together.
I want to speak with Mr. Shinkafi about, you know, because that's another criticism that the president faced, was that he used the opportunity. In fact, some people say it was a missed opportunity. The time he was supposed to be to empathize. He did empathize in ways, but, you know, he's received some criticism for reading out things that they have done since they came into power. But from the president's side, they say one of the issues that people said is that we're not communicating properly. We have all of these things available, and Nigerians don't know that these things are happening. So what's wrong with him explaining that over and over again? And I do have to note that ads from the presidency talking about one project or the other have increased exponentially since yesterday across all media platforms. Talking about the things that he has done and the communication bit of it, was it wrong for him to reel out all those things while he was giving the speech? And how can they get more Nigerians to really know what they're doing? Because it does feel like a lot of blinking is going on in the dark.
You see, what Mr. President highlighted in his speech yesterday, it has shown that there is a communication gap between the presidency or the people in the inner circle of the government and with the Nigerian masses. Because Mr. President in his speech, he highlighted the debt services, how much they paid for debt servicing. And he talked about giving a CNG kits to private and public transport to ease the tension of the poll increase. And he talked about the issue of some economic growth. So when you're talking about economic growth, it is something that is a long term. For people to see the result, it will take some time. And looking at the size of the Nigerian population, the birth rate on daily basis to approximated 20,000 babies are born daily. So times 30 days to give you 600,000. Times 12 months to give you 12 months to give you 7.2 million. Then if you take it for 10 years, Nigerian population will have an additional 72 million population. Looking at the size of the population, there's increase in size of population density. Nigeria, the federal government, state government, and local government has to come and face agriculture squarely to fight hunger and starvation. So these are some of the critical issues which Mr. President need to tell Nigerians on the issue of debt servicing, on the issue of the cost of governance, and many issues. On even what he said that they are going to take the money which were collected from the EFCC under some corrupt people, 50 billion, injected into some empowerment programs, which is a welcome development. But Mr. President and his inner circle are not communicating well. And even Mr. President needs to change his inner circle, those who are in the villa. It is very unfortunate. Mr. President, 24 hours before he delivered a national broadcast, the speech leaked out.
I've heard some people say they probably leaked it themselves just to test the waters. We see that happen a lot. Prof, I don't know if you understand.
That is correct.
Yes, because
but we have never experienced this in Nigeria.
Sometimes when you're not sure, we have. Sometimes when you're not sure of how the Nigerian people are going to take something they're going to say, you move it out.
If they react,
you say, no, it wasn't us, that's AI. but I want to move to my colleague in Lagos, Ayo. Would like to throw in a few questions in there, Ayo.
Thank you, Kayla. Let me begin with you, Prof, about communication. Mr. Shinkavi has mentioned that quite a few times. And I'm just wondering if, in your opinion, the issues are significantly addressed. How would you rate? Because I saw some commercials earlier before we came on the program, and it would look like the government was reacting to the issues as opposed to being proactive. So in terms of proactive communication, how would you rate the performance of the federal government and the state governments?
From the angle of the federal government has allowed itself over the last 1 year to be seen to have many voices, most of them uncoordinated. You only need to go to the records to find out how Mr. Onanuga, how many times he has made statements that the presidency itself denied, repeatedly, and on core national issues. He is a very competent, experienced, and highly respected media person. One of the people who, if you're talking about those who fought for democracy in this country through the media, and all of that. So it doesn't diminish from my regard for him. But then you have several others, and then occasionally some head of agency will jump out, go on air or put out advice showing all they are achieving. You see, you must make a distinction between effective communication and information dissemination. When you keep throwing out information from diverse sources and there's no thread holding them together, it will be out there. When you now come to speak, somebody will say, oh, you mean that is happening? And my question to the counter question to the question is, how much is effectively channeled through the Ministry of Information, and how funded is the Ministry of Information? And with all the challenges they have, people are talking about Boko Haram and the rest of it and say national orientation. I mentioned that the last time I was on TV. NOAA has a job to do. The resources should be given to it. Now, having said all of that, communication by a ruling party. Must it be a federal affair? You mentioned the advertisements on television. That's fantastic. Question, how many people have electricity at the time the advert is running? I'm not talking about those of us in Abuja, Lagos, and state capitals. The only way it can get to them is that the various layers of government and those who have responsibility for those layers of government drill down the information. That means they first of all get it. Are there roundtables within government, state governments that drill down to local governments? Look, go and tell our people this is what we're doing. I had cause to organize a training program on public communication for one of the states of the party. I went. Not first of all, none of them knew anything about public communication. His appointment as a spokesman, local government level, I didn't know such things existed. Now, when they didn't know what's going on in their party. Unfortunately, many state publicity secretaries also don't, apart from attending meetings. So here is what I think should happen. The federal government has to completely recalibrate its perception and conception of public communication, national communication, and strategic engagement. The Federal Minister of Education has the structures. I never get tired of saying that. That's the only agency, in addition to NOAA, that has offices, federal information centers all over the country. Man, supposed to bring information down there and bring back feedback, is not being enabled to do that. Also, I believe that too many government agencies have their own private television programs. Most of them are one-hour programs, really know their individual achievements. No problem with that, but you must ask yourself, who watches it? You put on your TV and it is something on, whether any of the parastatals, something half hour or something 1 hour, you switch on to another channel. So there are extensive records of expenditure, but not evidence of impact in communication. And that's why these adverts, yes, you ask whether they are reactive. Yes, they are reactive. The argument must now be that, oh, you see, we are not doing it. Let's tell Nigerians what we are doing. So you take 20 pages in different newspapers, put out your program. You don't ask yourself, beginning with you, which Nigerian will sit down to read a full page of advert on whatever it is you think you're doing? So again, is expenditure. Meanwhile, that advert, instead of running as advert, can be a briefing that will take a lot of space in the news, reach more people, use several platforms for less than half of the cost. So, summary in response to the question about communication. The government has a lot to say. But if each time it has a chance to speak to us, it only reels out data, it's offensive with all due respect. Because, oh, we did this, we did that, first we're hearing it for the first time. Second, the communication is not humanized. There's even the very combative ones. And that's why government should also begin to disaggregate who should come before the public at all. Who should come before the public? Offensive information ministers put Nigerians off, and we've had repeated experiences of that. Do we have one now? No. Could we get the stories flowing through and around the structure that does not have an immediately upsetting effect? That's what should happen. And also, communication from the presidency itself has to simply be streamlined. Who is it that must clear anything coming out from the presidency? If something comes out, if we know that it is X, anything that comes out as inappropriate is his fault, not the fault of the specific person who did it. And all of us have had a lot of experience in this. Create a cohesive, template, put everybody together, let there be clear narratives. It could be 3 or 4 points on any issue, but anybody who must speak must be aware of those.
On that same issue, Prof, you talked about the platforms. There are a good number of people who will be wondering whether or not the government, be it federal or state, and I'd like you to also expatiate on the states a little more, because that's where the people live. I've had reason to look at, some social platforms of some state governments, especially the major state governments who have the most people in the country. And believe me, a good number of them have less than 1 million followers. Even some 500, some even 200, some even 100,000. And I'm wondering, where is the engagement here? So it would seem like the information is there, but there is no engagement. Consequently, the communication cycle is not closed. I've looked at, it's not because government cannot do it, because even right now, I'm checking the Nel Fund Nigeria Twitter handle, X handle now, and I see that there's a lot of engagement. So it is something government can do. Why they don't do it is the issue. So the question that I'd like to ask you is, what should government be doing now, not just to react, but to be proactive in raising the issues and engaging people the way they ought to, significantly and sustainably?
The government should put out what I'll call a national engagement template. At the end of every week, it should be said, this is what we have done this week. Now, this thing we have done this week, how can Nigerians become aware of it within the next 24, 48 hours? The structures are already in existence. You put out the information. State governments and state governors is mediated to the party leadership in the state. That party leadership, by our current warped structure, is now apparently headed by the governor. So when you drill down what's going on, and that's why I keep emphasizing political education. If I'm part of the opposition, I will make sure that there's a rally every month in one state or the other. And we're not talking about the one that will fill the stadium. Party meetings. Let each party chairman hold a meeting in his own local government, make a provision. Entertainment and the rest of it, it will not cost more than 2 million. Let's even assume it's 5 million per local government. It is totally affordable. With that, you're building cohesion. You're making people feel good about themselves. The bosses that will bring them to the meeting, they will get paid their money for a day, which in those days would be about 300-400, but now maybe 5, 10, 15, 20,000. Still affordable. Those who come and go, they will have some refreshment. They will know those who are members of their party. Now, political education dovetails into public government education because the government in power uses that to drill down to every level and every layer. You will then find two people who are selling yams in the market arguing about their parties. It happened while we were growing up. Or this elitist orientation, where the governor will just make an address. They are not even doing that now. And I've asked the questions in the last 48 hours. Did the other governors not see Fubara? Is he not a governor like them? Was he attacked? Are they not asking themselves, to what extent do I belong in this environment? Must it take me for them to know we're doing anything? Now, picture a situation where all the governors took ownership of their spaces. You look at Kano. They say, oh, you know, those who rioted are mostly little children. People indoctrinated them. Hungry children do not understand the ideology.
Yeah.
And Kano has one of the largest number of public hungry children in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So yes, a new mode of engagement that moves. Communication comes from the sense of commune. It's related to community. It's a movement of how you feel from your soul, reaching another and drawing empathy.
And I'm hoping that
information dissemination and data distribution.
I'm hoping that, you know, by this education of yours, I mean, there are those who would take a cue. But let me ask Mr. Shinkafi one question before Kayla takes over back. I mean, you spoke the other time, Mr. Shinkafi, about insecurity and how that the federal government is not doing something about what is happening in the local governments. And I'm wondering whether or not, you know, it's not even a significant challenge here. Kayla mentioned the other time, some local government chairmen, and I understand it's in Oyo State, are saying, no. We don't want to do what the Supreme Court is saying. We want the federal government to be paying our money straight to the state governments. On the one hand, there are those who would question whether or not that is in line with the Supreme Court. There are those who would also say whether or not that is something coming from the state governments, knowing the reaction of the state government to that in the first place, and the implication of that on insecurity at the lowest level of government in Nigeria.
You see, one of the major problems of Nigeria is the state governors. In the presidential speech, Mr. President highlighted for the first 14 months, they disbursed over 570 billion to 36 state governors, including FCT. Yet, it has not changed the narrative of the poverty at the downtrodden masses at the local government level. And the money which are being allocated to the 774 local government. Most of these funds are being siphoned, diverted, for personal enrichment by some of the state governors. Once they pay salary, they siphon or divert the funds. So the issue of the local government autonomy, which is a declaratory judgment by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is the apex court of the land, and nobody can appeal the judgment of the Supreme Court. Whether the local government chairman of Oyo State like it or not, they must abide by the decision of the apex court.
I mean, I was just going to say, sorry to cut you in there, but we do have to manage our time. I was just going to say, how they feel about it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It doesn't matter how they feel about it, doesn't matter.
Because it's the Supreme Court, they should talk to God about it.
So how they feel about it doesn't matter. So the
or they didn't have to let us know. They could have maybe collected it and just sent it back to the governor.
So the battle of the local government funds are one of the contributing factors of the hunger and starvation in the land. Because these funds are not judiciously utilized by the council chairman in some of the developmental projects in their various local government areas.
I think when it comes to local government autonomy, and I want to be able to get you on that before we close up this morning, because you used to be former chairman, Committee on Prosecution of Bandits.
Yes.
And one of the issues that we're having is insecurity, which has also snowballed into this food insecurity that we're feeling right now. At the local government levels, with the autonomy that was granted local governments, in your view, as someone who had to deal with these bandits and banditry, especially in northern Nigeria, this autonomy, just speak to the importance of it at the local levels and what local government chairmen need to understand about their role when it comes to securing our country.
The benefit or advantage of the financial autonomy, the council chairman of local government in Nigeria, they will be financially independent and they will be able to execute their budgets. Because in the days where the local government chairman receive their allocation directly from the park, they execute some rural roads, hospitals, organize security meetings, organize fair vigilante in their various community. But when they are not financially independent, you see in some state, after the governor pays salaries, the local government will end up having 5 million naira, which is not even enough.
We do have to wrap up. I wish we had more time. I think we're going to have to get you back here, Mr. Shinkafi, because we need to talk about this local government autonomy so people can understand what roles they are here to play. Thank you so much for being with us, Professor Ike Chukwu, Executive Director, Development Specs Academy. Thank you very much for being with us here this morning. And of course, Mr. Sani Shinkafi, the Executive Director of Patriots for Advancement of Peace and Social Development. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Business Morning on Sunrise Daily is up next. Stay with us.
The journey to success is not always smooth. There are rough patches on the path to accomplishment. The struggle continues until solution appears that launches you to the world of your dreams, protecting, securing, and ensuring that you reach your goals. At International Energy Insurance, we know that the journey to actualizing your dreams could be tough, but we are always there to support you and help you prepare for the unexpected. International Energy Insurance is a Nuremberger company now positioned to serve you better. International Energy Insurance PLC. Energy to care.
We are thrilled to have you on board as we chart the course for our next chapter. We're inviting you to take up your rights in full for 19 naira 75 kobo per share. From the 8th of July to 14th of August, take advantage of the chance to acquire one more ordinary share for every 2 shares in your portfolio. Visit www.theaccesscorporation.com to subscribe. Access Holdings, where financial solutions connect the world.
bossa for Labour Party. And then bring the men, we go solve problem for we state, we go make us happy. Chidi bossa for Labour Party. Better things go flow from post to post as it's supposed to be normally. Hello, people want to matter. Oluna, get my guy. Now you guy. Show now our guy. Hello, people. Yeah, family is there. Olumide, Osaibovo, Apata, Bogovuna, Alaji Yusuf Asama, Kadiri, for them.
Vote Olumide Osaibovo Apata as governor. Vote Alhaji Asama Kadiri for deputy governor Edo State. Vote Labour Party.
Good morning. Welcome back. Well, would I say from the protest break, at least right here on Business Morning. It's good to have you back. Business Morning on Sunrise Daily is the program. I'm Ini John McQuarrie. We do about 30 minutes of business before we head back to the Sunrise Daily studio. Starting from the global space, oil is making the news these days. Oil features extended losses in a volatile session on Monday as fears of recession in top oil consumer, that's the United States, offset supply worries stemming from mounting tensions in the Middle East, which is the world's largest oil-producing region. As of now, I think they're counting in about 25% of recession in the United States in a couple of months. Obviously, that affects a whole lot of things. Well, shares also tumbled across Asia. U.S. recession worries sent investors rushing from risk assets while wagering their rapid fire rate cuts that will be needed to rescue growth. Looking at the numbers here, we see a full 1% drop for Brent, to $76.03 a barrel. And then for WTI, it's even worse than that, 1.2% to $72.65. You notice that it will be odd to see Brent in 70s while you also have WTI there, but that's what we're having now. It's not a very common sight, and it's all because of the U.S. recession fears stemming from Friday's weak July payrolls report. That only adds to the Chinese demand concerns that have been lingering in the oil market for some time. Now, there's also the slumping diesel consumption in China, which is the world's biggest contributor to oil demand growth, and it's weighing on oil prices. Oil also came under pressure after OPEC Plus stuck to its plan. Remember, they're supposed to have that meeting to phase out voluntary production cuts from October, which means that supplies will rise towards the end of this year. So, of course, this is affecting the market, affecting currency, and all of that. Well, I don't think it's affecting Nigerian currency, but let's see how that has done. All through the strike period, we saw the first day of the strike, we saw a huge gain in the NAFEM platform, and we thought perhaps that was because a lot of investors or a lot of consumption demand was not being made, and so we saw about 2 naira gain on that, but obviously that has been wiped off because we see that for Friday, Naira closed at 1,617 Naira 8 kobo from 1,517 Naira. See there, almost 3% drop. And so I guess this could be one of the costs of the protests and the fears and uncertainty in the economy. We've been seeing the Naira drop, but obviously this is a huge one, almost 3% in one trading session. For NAFEX, it was a gain, but we know that's kind of artificial, not something you really want to put your eyes on. From the Naira now, we go to a bit of corporate. Odua Investment Company Limited has inaugurated its Lagos licensing office as part of its strategic effort to accelerate growth and expand its footprint. The building, which is a 62-year-old structure built by former Western Nigeria Corporation, will henceforth, according to the chairman of the company, Otumba Bimbo Ashiru, become a meeting point for all the organization's subsidiaries. Mr. Ashiru said that this new office will act as a communication bridge between the holding company and the investment community.
We are into agriculture now. We have over 40,000 arable hectares, arable land that we are working on. We want to focus on cassava. What we are talking about now is that the food, we need food in this country, and we are focusing on that. We are investing more on that. We are focusing on agriculture and industrialization. And the new age technology, we want the youths to be able to do things with us. We have this hub with the Osun State government. We have some state government. Even our foundation is focusing on IT. And we want to have the hub to be able to drive it. And we are driving it from the central here. Not only that, we are into oil and gas. We had the marginal field, bitter marginal field, that by God's grace, hopefully by the first quarter of next year, we should be able to drill the first barrel. So we are focusing on hospital. We have hospitality, we have real estate, and they have the good news for you that all our real estate business has been moved to Wema Board, which is wholly owned by Odua Investment. So Wema Board is doing our real estate business. So the holding company is now a lean holdco. So Odua Investment Company is now the holding company, and we have all our subsidiaries under the and that's what we're focusing on.
Well, a lot of people are also focusing on food. Apart from Odua Investment, the National Stakeholders Consultative Meeting on 2025 Agriculture Budget Meeting has been hosted by ActionAid in partnership with major players in the agricultural value chain, which include GIZ, Oxfam Nigeria, Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, as well as ECOWAS Commission. And they're of the notion that the protest in the country is directly influenced by food inflation. And consequently, ActionAid Nigeria is asking the federal government and state government to enhance the country's agricultural sector and adopt a budget that will not be undermined by poor governance. They suggest aligning the National Agricultural Transformation and Innovation Policy with the targets and indicators of the biennial review to ensure Nigeria meets the Malabo commitments.
The monitoring of implementation of agricultural projects in the budget by all relevant stakeholders, such as Federal Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, State Ministry of Agriculture, and Agriculture Committee in the National Assembly and State Assemblies, strengthens fisheries and agricultural value chain through a structured, innovative lending and regulatory model to reduce import in fish and aquatic products. And lastly, to promote private investment in agriculture through incentive and policy reviews.
Well, on the ongoing protests, the Nigeria Employers Consultative Association, NECA, is urging protesters to embrace dialogue while also requesting government to urgently address the seeming economic contradictions that are strangulating the organized private sector and stopping it from fulfilling its role as the engine of development. While the Director General, Chief Executive of NECA, Mr. Adewale Smart-Oyemide, stated this, commends the President Bola Tinubu, for addressing the nation on the protest. He believes that there are some interventions that should be prioritized among others, and he notes some of it to be issuing strict directives to regulatory agencies to prioritize regulation over current seeming unquenchable thirst, to impose penalties on already struggling businesses. There's also suspension of the sugar tax for the food and beverage sugar subsector to allow the sector to stabilize and contribute maximally to current effort at achieving food security. Also, sustaining the supply of crude oil to Dangote refinery as directed by the President to reduce the nation's propensity to import fuel, as well as curtailing the rising interest and inflation rate, while also addressing ongoing forex volatility. Well, talking about that issue of food security, of course, it's top on the list. Talking about why we have the protest on the street. Let's speak now to the Commissioner of Agriculture and Food Security, Otumba Tola Fasheru from Osun State. The Commissioner in Osun State. Perhaps he could tell us what's going there. Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for your time. Well, we do know, interesting scenario in Osun State yesterday. We saw heavily armed security personnel providing security for hundreds of protesters who converged. I think one of the areas was Olaya Bridge, and they were conducting open church service. Interesting one. But how's the protest and how's the government handling the protest in Osun State?
Thank you very much, Ini. Thank you for having me. As you are aware, His Excellency, our governor, the governor of Osun State, Ashiwaju, Dr. Senator Nuruddin Jackson Ademola Adeleke, he is a pro-people person, and what he did was to engage the people, these organizers, to make them understand that yes, there's hardship, there are issues, but we should not spoil what we already have going for us. And so whatever protest that they're going to be making, it should be peaceful. So that went well with them. And of course, because they can see the body language of the governor, they can see what he has been doing, the welfare policy that he has been doing, injecting billions of naira into the economy, paying the workers as at when due, meeting up the obligations of the pensioners, that which was not the case before he came in, paying even arrears of salaries, and all of that. So they understand that yes, this governor means well for them. We're paying bursary to the students and all. With this busing monies to the cooperative societies. And he also believes that Osun economy should be for the Osun people. And so we have the local content in the project that we are implementing. You see the road projects going on, the infrastructure. You see what we are doing, even in a whole lot of things, agriculture, ensuring that at least there is things are made better and people can see his efforts. Generally, I think that's the sum total. And of course, engaging the security apparatus in the state, working with them to ensure that law and order is preserved.
Yeah, so, I mean, since you're Commissioner of Agriculture, and we know that food inflation is a major driver of the agitation and the protests, we'd like to know we know the federal government has put a 150 import-free day, 150-day import-free duty for food to be imported in the country. I think there was a clarification that going to end in September. We'd like to know what Osun State is doing for the people. At least I'm sure that if the people have food, affordable food, perhaps some of that, they may not even join the protest.
Yeah, absolutely. Osun State, we take the issue of food security as a very, we put in the front line. And you see, my governor was the first governor to set up a food security committee to ensure that we galvanize input from various sectors on the way to address these problems. And the committee had submitted their recommendations, and immediately His Excellency set up the implementation committee, and they're already at work. And a lot of these recommendations have been put to operation. One of the things they suggested, of course, was mechanization of our farms, tractorization, and all of that. You can see that we brought in tractors now. We have delivery of tractors for the farmers, and some of the issues of the issue of security as well in the farms. We brought together the stakeholders, and then, of course, the security apparatus, every one of them, the Amotekun, the civil defense, the police, the army, the Air Force, all of them, to ensure that, yes, we have security in the farms, and that our people are able to go to farm without any fear of molestation. Again, you see some of the palliatives that have been distributed. We ensure that it got down to the lowest level. Lowest level. Yeah. Am I on?
Mr. Fasheru,
am I on?
Hello, Mr. Fasheru.
Hello.
Okay. I wonder what happened there. I think there was an interruption. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Well, it looks like we have a little...
Hello?
Okay, can you hear me, Mr.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, do you want to conclude your thoughts?
Yes, so basically we're working on that. Then we're putting together now a food mart to ensure that food gets to our people at relatively moderate prices. We are also working on engaging the traditional rulers to engage the market women, everyone working together to see that we can manage the prices so it doesn't go out of hand. So, these are efforts.
So when
we are
you
also
say
ensuring that fertilizers, inputs like fertilizers, chemicals, seedlings are made available to our farmers across the board.
All right, Mr.
supporting
Fashion.
every sector.
All right, Mr. Fashion,
Yes.
when you say manage the prices, perhaps other states could learn. How do you manage the prices?
Well, basically, like I said, we're working with our traditional rulers. It's a voluntary thing. It's an understanding of the times. And we're engaging the market associations on voluntary price control. So that they just, we've seen a lot of arbitrary price increases all over the country. People over profiteering. And so we are engaging our market associations and then bringing in our traditional rulers. So that at the end of the day, we need a peaceful state. We need a state that people can feed well, a robust economy, And so it's our job, it's everybody's job, And that's what we're doing. And then, of course, we're giving incentives to them. And they can see what we are doing. They can feel the governor. They can see his move. They can see his passion. And then, of course, we are talking about the home gardens. Everybody, we need to do the bit that we can do. The vegetables, pepper, all those things. We can still do all of that at the back of our houses. And we're doing desensitization.
All right, Mr. Bashir.
So it's a real work. It's an intentional work. Yes.
So obviously, Mr. Bashir, is an intentional one. Now, one of the points that have been used to criticize President Bola Tinubu's speech yesterday was that he did not directly attend to the request of the protesters. There was no timeline to say maybe in this amount of months you should expect this and all of that. In Osun State, do you have timelines as to what people can expect? And then what can the nation expect from Osun State? I mean, of course, after satisfying domestic demands when it comes to food.
In Osun State, we are acting. I mean, it's a daily work. It's something that keeps us busy. It's something that we think about. It's something that Excellency always is asking me and giving directives, moving. You can see 15 of committees here, looking over it, ensuring that it gives this support. So we are acting immediately. We are getting fresh lands, fresh farmlands across the local government. We said each of the local government must deliver a minimum of 1,000 hectares. At the end of the day, we're getting about 31,000 hectares, which we are engaging youth, agripreneurs, training them. These are things that we're already doing. These are things that we're already doing. So, and of course, we know that time is of essence. And everybody can see we're carrying, most of the time I'm on the media, people are engaging us, and we're telling them, if you need this support, already we have cassava stems. We're calling on the cassava growers, come and get your stems, come and plant. We need to boost these things, and in a short while, the supply will be there. The supply will be there, and then of course, automatically, things will get better. But while we're doing all of this, people are seeing what we're doing. We're doing palliatives here and there to ensure that our people are not hungry. We do not want hunger in Osun. And of course, there's peace. You notice that Osun State is one of the most, I will even say, the most peaceful state in the whole of the Federation. So these are efforts that we are making, and they can see it beyond lip service.
All right, Honorable Commissioner of Agriculture and Food Security in Osun State, Mr. Fola Fasheru. Thank you so much, and wish you the very best.
Thank you, Uni. Thank you for having me.
Let's take a break. When we come back, perhaps we can have a feel of what's going on in the field right here on Business Morning. Stay with us.
Hello, Mr. James. We're having some issues with the supply. Hello?
This is why I recommend Conga Corporate. Why get worked up when Conga Corporate is working? As companies strategize to save cost and increase profitability, Conga Corporate is your structured partner to supply all products your company needs nationwide. Conga Corporate, we save you time and money. Contact us at corporatesales@conga.com. End your power struggles with iPower Solution, inverters, solar panels, and batteries. With hybrid inverters ranging from 1,200 watts all-in-one to a whopping 500 kilowatts. iPower is designed and produced by certified renewable energy experts from 5 countries in partnership with Zynos Technologies, specifically for Africa. Durable and cost-efficient power solution for your home, small offices, and large enterprises. What you see is what you get. Order now on Congo.com or any of our authorized distributors for same-day delivery in most cities in Nigeria. Terms and conditions apply. iPower. Empower tomorrow. Today.
Hello, Mr. James. We're having some issues with the supply. Hello?
This is why I recommend Conga Corporate. Why get worked up when Conga Corporate is working? As companies strategize to save cost and increase profitability, Conga Corporate is your structured partner to supply all products your company needs nationwide. Conga Corporate, we save you time and money. Contact us at corporatesales@conga.com. End your power struggles with iPower Solution, inverters, solar panels, and batteries. With hybrid inverters ranging from 1,200 watts all-in-one to a whopping 500 kilowatts. iPower is designed and produced by certified renewable energy experts from 5 countries in partnership with Zynos Technologies, specifically for Africa. Durable and cost-efficient power solution for your home, small offices, and large enterprises. What you see is what you get. Order now on Congo.com or any of our authorized distributors for same-day delivery in most cities in Nigeria. Terms and conditions apply. iPower. Empower tomorrow. Today.
Welcome back to Watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Let's get our eyes on the streets and see what's happening. We have Emmanuel Ezekiel at Ojota. I'm sure if you're following the news right here on Channel Television, you would have heard the drama that took place there yesterday. But let's see what's happening. Emmanuel, I wonder if you can hear me. What's happening in Ojota? Yesterday, we heard hoodlums chased away the protesters. So what's happening there this morning?
Well, right now, the protesters have gathered again. At the moment, a lesser number, but of course they are here. You can see the cameraman zooming. They are actually on the other side of the traffic coming from K2, connecting to on top of the bridge. But they are in their numbers, and they seem to be increasing by the minute. Their request remains, and let's not forget quickly that the president did address the nation today. But from what I've heard from these protesters, it does appear that they are not satisfied with what has come from Mr. President. And then they are out here again. In fact, some of the comments here made by some of the those who have addressed the protesters here did say that more people should come out. But right behind me, if the cameraman can zoom right on the road, you would see vehicular traffic, almost normal vehicular traffic that you would see on a regular day, business day, the beginning of the week, Monday, like today. And it just shows how the protest has been received, has been dispensed in Lagos. And here, the protesters, like I said earlier, very few, lesser than what I actually covered the day before and yesterday Dario was here.
All right, Emmanuel.
You can see there are very few, but their statements are very clear. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Emmanuel. I wanted to ask about yesterday, there was a bit of drama right there where we saw people whom they called hoodlums
chasing the protesters away, and there was heavy security presence. So I wonder what the security presence is like today. And then, do we have any, suspicious-looking group of people apart from the protesters?
Right now, at the moment, the security presence, not as heavy as the last few days, but the security presence is here. And right behind, on the other side of Ojota, you have this police personnel cordoning off the road, which now I understand is to stop the protesters from going away from the protest ground as dispensed by the courts, restricting them to the Ganifawa Imi Park. But in terms of vicious-looking people, there ain't anybody like that at the moment. What we have here are just bystanders, the real protesters, the security personnel consisting of the Nigerian police, the Lagos Neighborhood Security Corps, and of course the NSCDC, which is the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. And that's the situation right now. And everywhere is calm. And from the look of things, it does appear that more people are gathering, bystanders are increasing, and those onlookers are just there observing what is going on.
All right,
in terms of security challenge or security breach, right now, nothing of sort.
All right, Emmanuel, thank you so much for that update. Subsequently, of course, I'm sure you would be called upon on a different programs.
Thank you.
So that's it. That's Ojota this morning. You just have to stick on to Channel Television. We'll give you updates from other parts to see whether they are protesters or not. And, of course, the interaction between the police personnel and protesters is also very important. Let's just look at the market right now before we head back to the Sunrise Daily studio. Last week, well, the good thing is that there was trading going on in spite of the protests, especially on Thursday when the physical movement was lean. The markets, that's the NGX, was still trading, even though it closed in the red. And it was 4 straight days of negative trade, just one positive. Was not enough to erase that positive, the negative trade of the 4 days. So at the close of trade last week, we did see a drop in the all-share index, 0.46%, and still at 97,000, haven't lost 100,098. And the equity cap at 55.49 trillion naira. Activity was mostly green. Volume alone was in the red at 3.39. That's for the week. 44,814. Sectors profit-taking was the game of the day last week, and we did see some majors getting hit by profit-taking. Right, the Fugas topped that list. Consumer goods, I think Dangote was one of those that got hit. Insurance closed, however, in the positive 1.59. Oil and gas recovered. Japan Gold was on the negative, but O&O recovered, and really brought on the shine to that sector. So it was up 4.27%. Top gainers, Altibrisco, O&O last week came through for the counter. Industrial and medical gases also was part of the top gainers, while the flip side for the top losers, United Cap and Mecure, well, you think some of those stocks people don't remember where it got attention, and Thomas White also did get that. Top trades for the week, Fidelity Bank, UBA, Zenith Bank, the top trades for the week. We'll see what this week holds. It's a fresh week, and the good thing is that whether there's protest or not, a lot of trading takes place virtually now, so we still see a lot of activities. But right now, let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studios for more conversations.
Well, protest management, thank you so much, Ini. Protest management is something that everyone has been talking about for quite a while, especially with the protests that have happened, that continue to happen, as we saw there from Ojota, and in parts of the country. right here in Abuja. The police and the army have completely taken over the Moshood Abiola Stadium. At least we can report that. But we actually do have this travel alert that has been given out by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Republic of Nigeria is issuing a travel alert to citizens in the United Kingdom. So I'm going to be able to get just a bit of it. There's an increased risk of violence and disorder occasioned by the recent riots in the UK, stemming from the killing of 3 young girls at a concert. The violence has assumed dangerous proportions, as evidenced by reported attacks on law enforcement agents and damaged infrastructure. To this end, citizens are advised to be extra vigilant and take measures as follows. Avoid political processions and protests, rallies, or marches. Avoid crowded areas and large gatherings. Be vigilant and self-aware at all times. Contact the High Commission, as the Nigerian High Commission, of course, with a view to passing information that could be of interest via email and telephone. And of course, this statement is coming from Ambassador Eche Abu Ogbe, who's the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that travel alert to Nigerians living in the UK in the light of the protests going on there. And that brings us to our next conversation, which is about protest management and taking a look at the Lagos situation. Ayo is here for that.
Well, thank you so much, Kayla, and that's quite enlightening for some people to know that, you know, there's pockets of these things all over the world, and we've had that said quite a number of times. Well, to review the hardship protests ongoing right there in different parts of the country, irrespective of even that which you saw my colleague bring to you earlier, Nelson Ekujimi is here with us. He is a public affairs analyst in our Lagos studio here, and along with him is Owolabi Sheriff, who is an activist and co-leader of the End Bad Governance protest. Gentlemen, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin with you, Mr. Sheriff. Your own assessment of, you know, these whole protests, particularly in light of the things that we want to happen and the things that we didn't want to happen.
Well, if I must say, we are getting there. When I say we are getting there, it's that we don't want violence. We don't want hoodlums to hijack this movement. And we have been doing everything in our own capacity to curb that and contain them. But lately, just as at yesterday, we had a very bad incident at Ojota, which is the convening ground, while some thugs attack some protesters, though we had agreed that we are not going to be protesting yesterday, so that every other people should go to church and do some else. But you know, we can't. There's a limit to control over freedom fighters like myself. So, in that cause, some thugs came out from the hoodlums. It was on live TV, attacked the protesters. Which these are the things we have been avoiding. Why the security outfits watch them do what they want to do. So I was disappointed, just like you ask what we don't want to happen. And what we want to happen is the president should address the need of the common man, which is the hunger, hardship. So that's where we are going, and that's what we want to happen. But I'm just disappointed by the security outfit yesterday for not doing, you know, what is right, which is lawful, by protecting the protesters.
But you do recall, if I can just quickly piggyback on that one, you do recall that the security agencies at various points have also suspected that such a thing could happen, and consequently they were saying that the protest shouldn't be street-wide because such things could be hijacked, as you are already confessing that it happened now.
Yeah, exactly. I had an intel on Saturday. On Saturday, that was day 3. On Saturday, I spoke with the ACP, which was on ground at the protest ground in Ojota. I gave him the intel that some people are coming from a particular area of the state, and he affirmed to that fact that it is true, it is a true intel. And that is why they have been containing us in this ground, in this space, that if we go outside this box, things could escalate, which I've been doing my best to...
Were you able to contain people?
I was able to do that on Saturday. So, but yesterday we were not on ground, just like I said, we agreed to reconvene this morning on the ground, and people are already on the ground as I speak, so the government can't stop us. and the security cannot compromise.
But you do see the risk that government has been talking about, right?
Yes, of course, it has always been a risk. You can't fight for a good cause, and there must be a risk in fighting for a good cause.
Okay.
And I agree with them that, okay, there are some hoodlums which these people must have planted inside. I spotted a few bad eggs, and I hand them over to the police, and on that day. But then we can't stop the movement.
Okay.
We can't stop the movement.
Mr. Kujimi, your own assessment generally of the processions.
Well, my assessment of it is that the protests, a lot of Nigerians, including yours sincerely and the government, have admonished that the protesters should be peaceful. They should conduct their business within the ambit of the law. But don't also forget that before the protests, the Department of State Services issued an advisory that this protest is being organized for reasons other than what they are masquerading. And we saw in some states where the protest became a riot, where government house was attacked. I don't know what hour anybody in the course of exercising your right, that some person said it's about hunger. And I asked myself, if you are fighting against hunger, what has that got to do with the release of a terrorist leader from the avalanche of demands you see here and there? Because as we speak, the issue on ground, which every Nigerian agreed, is that the cost of living is becoming unaffordable. Nobody quarrels about that. If some persons have decided that this is the route to take to ventilate or to pass this message across, so long as they do it without infringing on the right of others, good luck. Some persons will take another route. But when you turn it into a riot, when the security agencies warned you that the organizers, because as we speak, the organizers have remained unknown and faceless.
But one of them is here.
Well, the Inspector General of Police said he extended an invitation, and none of them showed up. So I'm not the one that will call for the organizers, it's the state. And from the information that the Inspector General of Police gave us on day 2, which was August 2, after the riotous situation in some states, he made it clear that his invitation is still open, that their councils came. And you saw when one of the councils admonished that they should make it a one-day protest, they disowned him and started calling him all sorts of names. But that is none of my business, because it's their council, so let them steal their juice. But what we are saying is that I'm not against protest because I'm a product of protest. But when we organize protests, we go to protest grounds with placards, megaphone, to address people. And when we make our demands, once the media is there and the media has covered it and the message has been passed across, we go home, because we know if you protest to a certain level, things will happen that will be beyond your control. And for that, you'll be held liable. We have organized protests that even on the first day of protest, we couldn't go further when we saw the threat to security of life and property. We didn't want to be held responsible for causing a breakdown of law and order. And we dispatched. We said, we are not holding protests again. We are afraid for the life of even the people we have brought to be in the protest, as well as the ordinary man who is trying to eke out a living. But in this case, you have seen clearly that, like the DSS and the police warned, that the agenda of the faceless and unknown organizers is to create chaos. Because if not, Mr. President has given an address yesterday that I have heard you. We are working to address those things that makes the cost of living, unaffordable for Nigerians. It's as a result of retooling and re-engineering of the economy, which is inevitable. So, if the father of the nation has addressed you, I expect that as younger elements will go back home and say, okay, let us wait within XY number of time and see whether these things that our father has told us will start manifesting. Some persons have said
Nigerians are impatient. And I said, no. My father sent me to the university. I spent 4 years. Why didn't my father say, go to university and come back in one day and become a graduate? My senior brother is a medical doctor. He went to medical school for 7 years. And somebody is telling me Nigerians are impatient. We just need, from what I've seen of the protest, is that a lot of Nigerians are misinformed. They don't understand the workings of government or the processes of life. That even life has processes. You are a baby, you are born into this.
You can't also remonstrate the fact that, some of the issues that were raised have been on for way too long. And
what are
repeatedly,
what are the issues?
Government, you just the simple one of the cost of living. We've been talking about this for eons, and it's not like some of these issues can't be addressed. Why is food so expensive?
Ayo, we have been talking about the cost of living, not 10 years, not 20 years, not 30 years.
So if government hasn't done anything about it, and for how long do you want people to be patient?
You can't say government is not doing anything about it. You heard Mr. President tell us what his administration has done.
No, that is
and
what
also, just a minute, Ayo. You're also aware that we have challenges that is inhibiting our ability to become food self-sufficient. Former President Muhammadu Buhari closed the borders. You saw the investment in the Anchors Borrower Scheme. You saw the investment. But you and I know that the government is just a small part of us because they are human beings like us. You and I are aware that the greatest threat to our food security today is the insecurity bedeviling all of us. I'm sure you can't say the government is the cause of insecurity.
So
it's a societal problem.
Anyway, let me ask Mr. Sheriff. You want to respond to some of the issues raised?
I'll just pick few, because from what I see here, you're not even speaking the mind of your own people. I must put it to you. All you said.
Please don't put it to me. Speak to the issues.
Okay.
I didn't come here to. Don't personalize it.
No, it's not being
Speak to the issues.
No.
Don't speak to me. Speak to the issues.
Mr. Sheriff, just you want to respond to the
issues. Okay, good. Please. Maybe he's entitled to his own opinion. I don't know where he's...
Of course I am.
I don't know where he's speaking from. Maybe not in Nigeria. But as a Nigeria today on ground, hunger is one thing that is major. And we can't... It's completely inevitable at the moment.
Is that the only issue on the table?
A lot of issue, because cost of governance matters.
Okay.
Because we can't have you can't have government spend recklessly on needless things, and you are claiming to revive the economy. Okay, according to your agenda, you say you are going to hit the ground running. You hit the ground, you impose on day one of assuming office, you impose hardship on your own people, and you claim to love them. See, we need results. We need sustainable, substantial results on the common man. Not some theory and the economic, whatever. No, not that. A common man on the street wants to eat rice today. A common man on the street wants to eat yam today. A common man wants to eat gari today, beans. A common man wants to commute to his work, a place of work, with good fare. No, probably 500 naira will take me to work and I'm back home. That's the common man. Everything, and he said, Mr. President addressed the nation. He did not address we, the masses. He addressed probably his own people. Because in his address, if I can recall, he never addressed the hardship we are facing currently. He never addressed the killings of the peaceful protesters in some states. He never addressed the first subsidy.
Think that when the president mentioned the fact that he commiserated with some people who were killed, he wasn't addressing the issue.
He wasn't addressing the issue because yes, to me, it wasn't addressing the issue because there's a lot commensurate. These are just formality to boycott.
So when the president talked about infrastructural development, emphasizing some major infrastructural interventions to create economic growth and create jobs and all of that, it's not relevant.
Please, you and I know.
I'm just asking questions.
Okay. I do not believe anything on that speech, as far as I'm concerned. Because as long as it's not taking effect on it's not reflecting on the common man on the street.
So what do you think the president would have said that would have moved the needle for
Excuse me, even if amongst every demand, just come and address some of the reality demand, which is hardship, hunger today. Just two. Even if
what were you expecting from his speech?
I was expecting him to create a proper dialogue committee, one, addressing and stating his cause, addressing the demand of the people who died in the course of protests in the past days, some people that are still on ground today advocating for good governance and fighting for hardship, tell them, okay, this hardship, this is what we are going to do. Okay, I'm going to do this on fuel subsidy. I'm going to do this on food hardship, not giving us rice. I might want rice in Lagos, and I don't want rice in Kaduna. I might want rice in Kaduna, yam in Kaduna, and I don't want rice in. Rice is not sustainable. It's going to be, just like we see, some people are even hoarding rice.
Just to make it clear and to make it practical, Mr. Ekujimi, for instance, just talked about the invitation of the IG that the protesters, those who are agitating, should come to, for some kind of meeting. There was a meeting held with the IGP, with some lawyers on Zoom. Then he said that meeting is still open, that people can still come. Are you one of those people who went for that meeting?
No, I wasn't present anyway.
Okay.
I wasn't present.
So would you be open to such dialogue with any agency of government?
Agency of government is not IGP. IGP is just a security outfit.
Okay. I just said agency of government.
Good. I'm sorry. Okay. The IGP cannot address my problem and the common man problem.
So who would?
President himself.
Good. Now, you live in Lagos, don't you?
Of course I do.
Okay. Now, is it the president that would do that job better or the governor of the state?
Good question. Yes, it's going to, yes, good. The governor of the state would do a proper dialogue than the president.
Okay.
But we need a message passed from the governor. Till today, the governor of the state, which is CSO, is yet to step out in person to address us.
Good. Now, it's a nationwide protest, and a number of state governors have also come out. And I also know that the Lagos state government has put out some advisory for engagement. Are you aware of that advisory?
Sir, please.
I'm just asking,
I advise. Yeah, I got one this morning.
Okay.
There's a memo on the.
Now, for those people who are in the other states whose governors have come out to speak about one thing or the other, how do you hope that the statements from those governors can help the agitation? Because at the end of the day, after all protests and everything, we're still going to have to sit down at the round table, don't you think so?
I do believe in round table, definitely.
Okay. So, how do you suggest that should go? If there's going to be any progress?
If there's going to be a progress, you have to address, like I said, I'm going to repeat again, you have to address the need of the common man.
But the governor of Rivers State addressed the need of the common man. The governor, I think it was Kogi State, also came out to speak to the people.
Okay. Are you saying he was able to stop hunger, yes, from now?
Do you think hunger can be stopped in one day?
Yeah, it's a process. But we need to see results on the street today. Okay, like me stepping out today to get a grocery, or I want to get yam today, and I'm seeing the effect of these things. Like, okay, when I get that, yesterday it was 500 naira. Okay, today, after Governor Fubara or whatever have addressed us, it is now 400 naira. It's a process.
So you think it is possible to reverse the price of yam from, say, my grandmother who sells yam in the village?
You are the one.
I'm just asking. So so we are practical.
Okay, good. We have been practical here because you said a governor came to address the public, and do you think he's going to make that hunger go? No. I am countering that very perspective of yours, that no, it wouldn't work, because as long as the president, the sitting president itself, is not addressing the issue, because all these things come from the top to the bottom. And then we have to engage the local government, the state government, okay, in the process. But then our message is going to be passed through the state government.
Okay.
To the federal. So, but now, to me, nothing is addressed here. And don't be surprised by seeing people on the street today or tomorrow.
All right. Okay. My colleague Kayla in Abuja would like to also get in the conversation. Go ahead, Kayla.
Yes, Mr. Olabi, just so we can get a few answers from you. One of the issues that people have raised with the protest is the articulation of these demands, that these were not demands that you can solve overnight, and then there was supposed to be some kind of dialogue needed so you can get what you actually want. I want you to speak to that criticism of the articulation of demands, and then just your view, the idea that the leaders of the protest were faceless, in quotes. Do you think that was a good idea to start the protest without people knowing, your faces? At least we're seeing your face right now. Just to speak on those two things. And I didn't quite get the answer from you on collaborations that were made by you and the security agencies in the case of a hijack of the protests, in the case of lootings and things like that. If you could, in a few minutes, maybe take your time to speak to us on those three issues.
Oh, thank you very much. I will answer this slowly. I mean, in collaboration with the security outfit, I wasn't on the Zoom meeting because I want to be faceless, because before now we've seen how these people play out. Just before a day before protest or agitation, you see them pick you up to DSS, blah custody, and you don't find yourself anywhere again. So that was why many of us have remained faceless until the day. And again, addressing this thing, the hardship, he said probably it's going to take process. No, see, this man promised us, we Nigeria, to hit the ground running. So we expect results. You can't have 365 days and more, and we are not seeing results positively on the people. See, just like you said, it's a slow, it's a process, and I believe it's a process as well. But then, a president should have come out to address at least the least thing a common man is facing right now, the hardship, the hunger. It's not listed in this address. It is not there. It is not included. And yet, our senators, ministers are not on that page of, let's calm down. It's a process. They are still collecting their monthly salary. Allowances are still there. Hardship allowance. We are the one facing the hardship. How can somebody be collecting our allowance on the common man behalf? So these are the things, as long as, until these people can actually let go of their salaries in the next month or 1 year, so that we can both calm down together, the minister, even the president himself, let's go of your salary, let's see the patriotism in you. So then we can understand, okay, you guys, okay, we are both on the same page. But yet, if you guys are still telling us to calm down, we are the one facing the heat here. I'm a father and a husband as well. So I know what it is. I know the feeling I'm experiencing this day to day. That's why I'm out here agitating for the right cause. So I don't believe in all this process. I don't believe, as long as you guys are still collecting your money, your salary is still not shaking. So you're not being patriotic.
Okay. Well, Mr. Gujimi, sorry. What would you be advising now? There is no doubt the realities are stuck in the face of people. Farmers have a difficult time, and all shades of opinions here and there. What would be your counsel for progress?
My counsel for progress is that the youths, some of the youths, because the media has always made that mistake of saying Nigerian youths, and not all Nigerian youths. I think we need to increase our level of education. When you talk about food security, Mr. President made it very clear that the federal government has invested in agriculture. And we all know that the federal government does not own land anywhere except in Abuja, that the ownership of land resides with the state government. If the investment by the federal government, like we were all aware that the federal government gave fertilizers to the states, and the president has also enunciated that in his address, that there are other implements that are on the way as supports for the states. I think we need to educate our young ones that, look, the world runs on a process.
So you are saying that even in communication, there's a fault that needs to be addressed. There's a gap that needs to be filled. No,
the communication can be upskilled. Maybe, communication is never enough. Because where you are communicating,
communication is always a cycle.
Somebody's on the maybe somebody's on the farm at the time you are communicating. So communication should be, a circular,
continuous loop.
Continuously. Okay. So I advocate that we continuously engage with our people. Okay. When people say the government is not making sacrifices, I also want to remind us all here that just last month, the House of Representatives members said they were slashing their salaries by 50%, if we have not forgotten. And the question some of us ask is that, if you are slashing your salaries by 50%, please tell us what you want to use that savings
to do.
What are we going to use it for?
Okay.
That's the question we should ask.
Mr. Sheriff, 30 seconds. What would be your counsel to government and to, your colleagues?
Yeah, well, first of my counsel quickly is that to my colleague, those are my priority right now, that they should maintain peace and order, be lawful in the process of agitation. It's very important. It is essential and imperative, apparently. Even if they have court injunctions, the mago one, but we are still going to maintain law and order. Please do now maintain law and order and agitate peacefully. It is your fundamental right. Nobody can take that from you. And secondly, the president should address the common man need. It is imperative. You can't take that out. All these formalities, I'm not interested in all the...
All right.
I just want him to address the common man need.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Let me believe that Mr. President and all the governors have heard both of you this morning. Owolabi Sheriff is an activist and co-leader in bad governance, as well as Nelson Ekujimi, public affairs analyst, both of them in the studio this morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Well, some of those comments, Hila, let's take them quickly. This one is from Tegzungwe. He says, it's an exercise in futility for the federal government to think they can ease food inflation by importation or sudden mechanization. The vast majority of the farmers have been chased away from their farm by terrorists. The federal government must committedly return IDPs to their farms now.
We have this one from Imonoka and Nakena. It says, let the federal government initiate implementational and interventional reforms that will bridge the hunger and poverty in the land. What brought the protesters together is hunger, hyperinflation, and a rising recurrent expenditure that is over 37% of our annual budget. And he also goes on, another message from him says the presidency should stop throwing money at the economic crisis ongoing, since our state governors and resources allocated to their respective states is seen as part of their inheritance. There should be fruitful dialogue that will come out with programs to support the impoverished Nigerians that are over 64%.
Well, that's too much of the show today. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your morning. It's to One Nigeria, pray for her and work for her. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Indeed. Have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV.
Tired of pans that scratch and stick? Or cookware that takes up valuable space in your kitchen? Introducing ShopX Gotham Hammered Copper Collection, the perfect cookware to upgrade your cooking experience. The Gotham Hammered Copper Collection features a super durable ultra non-stick surface. Eggs stick to other pans, but with the Hammered Copper Collection, they slide right out. Incredible! It's oven safe up to 500 degrees. Any recipe can be made in these pans, and then it wipes clean with ease. Make mouth-watering jollof rice or even fluffy pounder with ease, because nothing sticks.
I needed a cookware to keep up with me. The Gotham Hammered Collection has been a game changer. No more burnt meals or hours spent scrubbing pots.
You could be paying over $490,000 for a collection of pans that are not even non-stick. Call the number on your screen now and get it for just 364,950 naira. If you order now, we will upgrade you to the Premier Kitchen Collection at no extra charge, and also include all-in-one food processor that blends, grinds, chops, dices, pounds yam, and makes smoothies in seconds. Place your order now and we will deliver the entire collection for free. The following was a paid presentation from ShopX TV.